Hello everyone, I'm Jack Fisher and welcome to my world. And if you follow superhero comics long enough, you learn to sense when you've encountered a truly defining moment for a character or a story. They don't come along often, there's often a lot that goes into them in terms of setup, story, and narrative, but when they happen, they are a truly profound experience that often has ramifications for years to come. And since the events of 2023's Hellfire Gala, it feels like we've been getting a lot of those moments in the X-Men comics, but few have been as dramatic or as personal as the ones surrounding Jean Grey. As one of the X-Men's most iconic and endearing characters, she is at the heart of many endearing moments, and when she died at the hands of Moira McTaggart during the events of the gala, that's when you know things were about to get bleak. But death has rarely been the end of Jean Grey's story. If anything, it's a catalyst. And her solo series that spun out of the aftermath of the Hellfire Gala has only reaffirmed why her story matters so much. Written by Louise Simonson, who has crafted some of Jean's most defining moments in the past, this series has taken Jean on a truly remarkable journey. Now adrift in a realm between life and death, we see her revisit some of the most critical moments in her life. She knows she failed the X-Men. She knows she failed everyone she loves. So naturally, she strives to fix it. She tries to single out a moment in the past where it all went so horribly wrong. Through the first 3 issues, we see Jean attempt to follow a different recourse during the critical moments of her life. From the early years of the original 5 X-Men, to the dramatic moments of the Phoenix Saga, to her confrontation with Madeline Pryor during the events of Inferno. But in every case, choosing another path didn't fix the present, it just made everything worse. It all led to this painful realization. If she wants to save her friends and her loved ones, it has to be done in the present. Now, in Jean Grey number 4, she also has to come to terms with her connection with the Phoenix Force. This immense cosmic power has been a constant part of her life for better and for worse. She can try to escape it all she wants, but she can never truly undo the connections that bind them. Initially, this struggle triggers a major identity crisis, which morphs into a full-blown battle against herself. Jean now knows she's in the white-hot room, the nexus of creation where the fires of the Phoenix Force burn brightest. But it's also a place where the line between what's real, what's imaginary, and what's a nightmare become exceedingly blurred. These hostile images of Jean make it painfully clear. What Jean experienced in those scenarios wasn't just a fever dream. It was real to some extent. And that is an important detail, because it implies that all the ways everything went horribly wrong, all the suffering she caused by choosing a different path, they were truly beyond her control. And the Phoenix itself adds another important dimension to this effort. It reveals to Jean that this elaborate ploy was her way of second-guessing her actions, doubting herself, her abilities, and her capacity to do the right thing. And for someone as powerful as Jean Grey, that kind of doubt is as damaging as it is dangerous. But even as the Phoenix tries to get this point across, other versions of herself remind Jean how badly everything went. She still desperately tries to argue her logic behind these decisions, and they seem sound on the surface, but that only reminds her how she failed to see the bigger picture. These various other versions of herself remind her that the machinations of these events were much more complicated than a single choice. There's even a brief breakdown of the many complications surrounding Jean's story with the Phoenix Force, including how the Phoenix Force took her form, wiped out the Dabari, and inadvertently guiding Madeline Pryor towards becoming the Goblin Queen. And yeah, Jean's story is complicated. That has always been the case. But even if you haven't followed those iconic stories for Jean, the message is still clear. Jean thought she could change things for the better with more logical, pragmatic decisions. But that also meant being more cold and calculating, seeing only the short-term benefits and ignoring the long-term implications. And that just isn't Jean Grey's style. It never has been. She is someone who operates heavily on compassion, empathy, and love. That's very much a core component to her character. Eventually, she gets to this powerful moment where she and the Phoenix Force come to an understanding. That same capacity for emotion, the heart that Jean follows to make so many of these difficult choices, that's what drew the Phoenix Force to her in the first place. And that's what ultimately made these decisions the right decisions in the long run. It feels like a reaffirmation of sorts, a moment of true self-actualization where Jean stops agonizing over all her doubts and regrets. Initially, she only saw the failures that her choices led to, but she had to be reminded of the heart that went into those choices. Because even if the consequences that followed were painful, they were still the right choices in the long run. This brings them back to the present and the aftermath of her death at the Hellfire Gala. Jean understands that she failed, and the Phoenix Force reveals that it too is broken, as is the White Hot Room. Without her, without each other, they can only do so much. And now that Jean is done doubting herself, and now that the Phoenix has given her perspective, they're ready to act. And as someone who has been closely following Jean Grey's story for many years, it truly is a beautiful thing to behold. Seriously, seeing Jean and the Phoenix Force share this intensely personal dynamic is just so perfect in how it reflects the dramatic nature of their story. Navigating life, death, and the impact of their immense power, it really gets to the heart of why Jean Grey is such an endearing character. And she needs that heart to be strong for what's unfolding around her. As the previous issue showed, the events of Immortal X-Men number 16 have caught up with her. She and the Phoenix Force aren't the only ones in the White Hot Room anymore. Hope Summers and the rest of Krakoa's mutant population has been trapped there, courtesy of a plot by Mother Righteous. And they cannot escape without Jean's help. But Jean can't help them without the Phoenix. This leads her and the Phoenix to briefly connect with Hope Summers, whose powers and personal connections to Jean matter a great deal. And through Hope, Jean is able to channel the power of the Phoenix. She's able to give Hope a boost as well as some guidance against a figure that appears to be Apocalypse. But in the White Hot Room, appearances tend to be more profound, as the past 3 issues have shown. And while we don't know what Jean's recourse leads to, as it will likely tie into future issues of Immortal X-Men, the endgame for this part of her story is clear. Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force are finally on the same page. Their story and their connection has always been fraught with loss, tragedy, heartache, and destruction, and this 4-issue miniseries has done plenty to belabor that. But even when things seem to go horribly wrong, the one constant through it all is Jean's heart. Her capacity for compassion, her willingness to act with empathy and understanding in the face of a harsh, unforgiving reality, that is one of her greatest strengths. There's even this powerful moment at the end where she asks whether she's still Jean Grey or whether she's now fire, life incarnate, and forevermore the Phoenix. But she doesn't offer an answer, because ultimately the answer doesn't matter, not to her or the Phoenix Force, because it's her heart and her love that guides them both. And it feels like the X-Men, her loved ones, and the entire world around her need that guidance now more than ever, especially as the aftermath of the Hellfire Gala continues to unfold. What form that will take, what it will lead to, that's still not clear. But what is clear in Jean Grey number 4 is that this is a truly defining moment for this character. Some of the most important events of Jean's past, which also happen to be some of the most important events in Marvel history, have been used to inform her present, as well as her future. At times, Jean has fought the Phoenix Force, embraced it, overwhelmed it, and rejected it. Time and again, their dynamic has caused complications and destruction. But in this final issue of this remarkable series, Jean Grey and the Phoenix have achieved an unprecedented harmony. And it could not have come at a better time. I've said before in previous videos that Jean Grey is the heart of the X-Men. Without her, it always feels like they're missing something critical to what they stand for. Beyond Xavier's dream, beyond just being superheroes, she is very much the heart and soul of what guides them. The events of the Hellfire Gala led Jean to cast doubt on that guidance. Now, the Phoenix Force has come along to remind and reaffirm why that heart matters so much. I think it's truly poetic in how it harmonizes the past with the present, and it makes for a beautiful moment to conclude a beautiful story about such a powerful character. Seriously, if you're a Jean Grey fan, an X-Men fan, or just a fan of comics that aren't afraid to be tragic yet heartfelt, this issue and this miniseries is a must-have. It doesn't just prepare Jean Grey for her next major struggle with herself and the X-Men. It truly celebrates everything that makes her such an icon, as well as a worthy host to any cosmic being. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for joining me in my world. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, take care and stay safe.